Right then, this is a walk around video, and this is for a simply wonderful car. This is my own car. This is a Honda CRX, as you can see, 1.6 twin cam. It's the earlier model without the VTEC. Very, very rare car indeed, for all sorts of reasons. One, it's completely original in terms of mechanically, suspension, everything else. But secondly and thirdly, its condition is astonishing. It's as close to new as you'll ever see on a used car in reality, and the mileage is just 23,554 miles, and it makes this a real collector's item. So just going to go around the car for you. This is in more detail than I would do normally on the videos, so it will take a little bit longer. So I'm going to come to the only exterior mark on the car of any note at all, and it is minuscule. Just there, looks like it's had a little touch in, or a little bit of glue or something. I mean, it literally is absolutely minuscule. The bonnet itself is without blemish, so my shadows. Try and keep the shadow away from it. But it is extraordinarily clean. Lenses, lights, all absolutely perfect. To come to the near side of the car, passenger side of course, it is mirror smooth in the panel work, absolutely mirror smooth. Front wing, blemish free, there is no rust on the car, it's been dry stored and stays in an air bubble all its life. Alloys completely unmarked, and the panel work, so it really needs to be seen in the flesh, and the video can only do so much, but if anything, it looks better when seen sort of up close and personal. Again, rear alloy completely unmarked there. Paintwork just looks wonderfully original. Then to come around the back of the car, I love these angles for these cars, absolutely adore it. It is quite extraordinary. So come around to the offside, the driver's side, as with the near side, it's just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Sorry for the crunching of the gravel under my feet, but so that it really, yes, you must come and see the car if you're going to. I mean, again, I'd only ask people to come see it if they are genuinely interested in purchasing the vehicle, because if they see it, they'll buy it. It's as simple as that. So coming inside the car now, just want to show you sort of door shuts, etc. All absolutely perfect. Door card looks absolutely factory fresh. That's not rust, by the way, that is grease on there, as it's meant to be the original from the factory as well. Seats again look absolutely as new, with no wear on them at all. I'll just come down to the carpeted areas, again in absolutely stunning condition. So I apologise because the video just really can't sort of pick it up as I'd like it to, in all honesty. So come to the driver's side now, again, door card, absolutely spotless. And then come down to the footwell areas, again, just immaculately clean down here. So the video will make it look so odd, it really does, it's not how it looks when you come here, in all honesty, it's just so clean. Back of the car, there's pointless going to the back. A, it's tiny, and B, it's exactly as the front, it's completely as new. So sat inside the car now, I've got the engine running through this section, so the dashboard we've seen actually illuminated to check for warning lights and the like. But it is, as I said, it's like stepping back in time. It's nice to sell these when they were brand new, and this is how it looks inside. isn't your average second-hand classic car. Far from it. It's far better than virtually anything out there, which is why it commands the price it does, so I make no apologies for that at all. Dashboard there, wonderful dashboard design. You can see there 23,554 miles. This video was done after the road test video, by the way, but it's engine running. There's no warning lights on it at all. Everything works exactly as it should. Just use my feet down there. If I could just pan up here for you, you can see the electric sunroof on there, and that's all working exactly as it should, and no rust in there at all. It said there's no rust on the car whatsoever. So finally now, just to come under the engine bay, and it is just amazing under here. Rather than go to the engine first of all, I'm just going to go to the bonnet itself, and you see there, I mean, it is unbelievable. All the original stickers, the cladding there, the soundproofing, just looks absolutely as new. Then I've come to the engine bay. Obviously you've got the chassis plate there. I mean, it all just looks in absolutely astonishing condition. It really is. And then I come back here to the battery engine itself. I mean, what a fantastic engine they are, but it is just a sensational looking engine bay that's been kept as close to new as it possibly can be. Right then, this is just a quick road test video actually, and this is for a Honda CRX, registered F174BJC. This follows on hopefully from a walk around video that I've done for this very car. Just so you know, because it gets slightly out of sequence, in the walk around video I mentioned the fact that that was done after I did this road test. It was actually done before I did this road test. I do apologise. The reason being that this is the second time I've done this road test video. On the first one, sporty as the engine sounded, I did afterwards think it actually sounded a bit noisier than I remembered, and only to find out that the rear exhaust had a blow, so it's actually got a new rear silencer put on the car, so it's been stored over the years. So it's considerably quieter now. I also wanted to, you know, again, whilst it's bone dry and the roads are dry as well, it gives me opportunity to take the car out, which I like to do as often as I can, certainly every month, just to keep the wheels turning on a car. It's always good for any car that's stored, but also basically it gives me an opportunity to talk to you about the car that a static walk around video or just pictures of the car can't really get across, because this is a really wonderful little coupe. Mechanically perfect, so I'm not going to bore you with all the details that I normally do on the videos about the brakes, the clutch, the engine, warning lights. There's nothing on the car, there's no warning lights, it's absolutely as it should be. But more because this is really sort of going back in time, and this was a car that many years ago, I still remember reading the car magazine, Autocar and Motor at the time when they were separate. You know, the road test for the vehicles. I remember when it came out, how excited I was as a Honda fan that I was, you know, because I remember the first generation CRX, then the second one with the 1.6, and then this one which came after, which was my personal favourite, which is the one I'd waited so long to find. And incredibly lucky to find this particular example. The reason I loved them is because at a time of, you know, I think it was a heyday for cars really, in terms of kind of hot hatches and small coupes. You had some wonderful vehicles at the time coming through, all manufacturers doing some really nice stuff. You know, you had the little sporty Fords, the XR2s, little Novas, you had Renault 5 GT turbos, you know, Fiat Uno turbos, Peugeot Turbo 5s, all wonderful cars in their own right. And then there was this, and it's a real typical Honda. It was, you know, it was the oddball amongst all of them. You know, it wasn't necessarily better than any, if all of them, but it was when it came to engineering, because what you had here was a car which, in my eyes at least anyway, I mean, the engine, which is the heart of, you know, pretty much any Honda, is, and was at the time, it was the stuff it was, you know, the preserve of kind of exotica at the time. This had a, you know, it's got a twin cam engine which absolutely loves to rev, but was so meticulously engineered that it put to shame all of its rivals in terms of longevity, reliability, actual refinement in operation. It's keenest to rev through the entire rev range, not through certain sections, and then didn't want to rev it any further because the engine sounded harsh. You know, this was like a little Formula Ford engine in a road car. You know, it gave you access to kind of motorsport engineering in a reliable road vehicle, and a soundtrack which can only come from a little twin cam. You know, we've sold many kind of Lotuses and that kind of thing. They've got that kind of that thrummy reviness to them, and this one, again, no different to that. But what I find kind of shocking in a way is just how modern the car feels to drive. It feels really tight on the road. The engine feels as crisp as any modern unit does, if not more so than any out there. The chassis, which is really chuckable and fun, aided by the fact that obviously you've got no power steering, which whilst you're on the move is nice and light, pretty damn heavy when it's stationary, to be honest with you, but it does teach you a lesson that you should have the car rolling, of course, when you should start turning them, so it doesn't put the wear on the joints in the way. But it just adds to the flavour of the vehicle. You know, it's a really cracking car of its vintage and its age. And as an example of one, you know, the last time I drove a CRX like this was when I was working for the Honda dealership in Bristol, and that would have been over 20 years ago now. And those would have been used examples with, you know, 50 to 100,000 miles on the clock off the forecourt. You know, we would come across the odd example like this where it'd be pretty much as new to look at, to sit in and to drive. And I certainly remember very fondly a lady that used to have and always had a little CRX, but she'd take them up to huge mileages. You know, it wasn't uncommon to find these things with 150, 200,000 miles, and that was simply unheard of for cars of that age, let alone ones with kind of sporty pretensions. I mean, you only have to look at, you know, the little 5 GT turbos, cracking little cars, but, you know, not without their issues, and the same with the 205s. Certainly when you got to, you know, the higher mileages, there, you know, plenty of them. And here was this pretty much unbreakable little coupe from Honda, which, as I said, went under the radar and is all the better for it. It really is. But as I said, it's just a video to kind of show you it in operation, and to obviously give some sort of reassurance to anyone that might be looking at the car in an advert as well. The car does drive as it's intended, you know, regardless of how pretty it looks, and, you know, the wonderful condition. Because, you know, sitting inside here now, driving the car, pressing pedals, pulling on levers, it all feels exactly as it did when it was new. It really is an astonishing vehicle. If money was no object, I would use this car daily, but it's too valuable to do that. It's too rare to do that, unfortunately. You know, rust protection on these was very limited, borderline non-existent, in all honesty, which is why most of them, you know, over the years have kind of disintegrated. Loads of them have been modified, God forbid. So to find a really genuine one like this, you know, incredibly rare. I did try and buy another one before this one, a year before, but I think it was Honda UK that actually bought the vehicle. It was owned on 11,000 miles and was actually, you know, very similar to this, you know, in the sense that it looked absolutely as new. But that one went for nearly £5,000 more than this one has been advertised for. And I think Honda would have paid even more were that the case. So I believe. But just a wonderful little engine. The gearbox and engine, as always with Hondas, just works so beautifully together. It's got a, you know, say the engine just kind of sings through, but the clutch actuation, the bite point, the precision of the gear change is just wonderful, and it really takes you back to a time where, you know, the lightness of the car, the fact that, you know, they weren't chasing, you know, cars to, you know, with, you know, to be sort of quiet and comfortable, although it's very comfortable, it's relatively quiet for its age. It was all about the fun, and I think some of that's, you know, with modern cars has been lost a bit. They have to sort of tick too many boxes. You know, if it's not, you know, ridiculously quiet, it won't go into production, or, you know, soft and compliant. Whereas cars this time and age, where, you know, you would allow them a few shortcomings just because it actually was, the whole essence of the car was to give you fun in driving. And I can't think of a car of its time that had as much as this car has. So it's got all the fun, it's beautiful to look at, and it's aged just so wonderfully well. But unlike so many cars of its time, when you get in them and drive them, and actually left a little bit disappointed because it doesn't drive quite as well as you remember it. Feels really old, feels fragile, feels as though it's going to let you down at any point. This feels like any Honda, just beautifully engineered, beautifully built, and a very long-lasting machine. As I said, it's just here to show you, you know, the video alongside the one that I walk around in it as well. And I just, you know, hopes of some use to you when you're looking at the car, and or just happen to be interested in the vehicle.